How expensive is Australia right now? And will your pay, savings or holiday budget stretch far enough in 2025? Australia still sparkles in travel brochures, golden beaches, vibrant cities, stable hospitals and universities that pull students from around the world. But beneath the postcard are real bills: rent, mortgages, groceries, petrol, utility bills and lifestyle costs that make people ask whether Australia is getting too costly to live in. In this video, I'll unpack the real cost picture in 2025, what's gone up, what's eased, and where you'll feel the pinch the most. I'll use official inflation measures, housing and rental data, and grocery trends so you can judge whether Australia is affordable for you, whether you're visiting, moving for work, or making a long-term plan. Spoiler: essentials are still steadying after a bumpy few years, but housing and the weekly grocery trolley are the two biggest stories to watch. Housing and rent, where most people feel the squeeze. For most households in Australia, housing is the single biggest cost. Rents have climbed sharply in recent years, and vacancy rates are low in many cities, which pushes weekly rents up. In the national picture, the median rent sits at about $665 a week in mid-2025, which means renters in major cities are regularly paying hundreds of dollars more per month than they did a few years earlier. That reality forces trade-offs. Many renters move further from CBDs, share with roommates, or delay upgrading household essentials so they can keep up with rent. If you're budgeting for a move, expect rent to be the largest single monthly line item and plan accordingly. Buying a home, record highs and tighter wallets. If you're thinking of buying, the housing market is another major factor. National home values reached new highs in mid-2025, and many capital city markets are pushing median prices into the eye-watering range. In some cities, median house prices are now over $1 million. Lower interest rates earlier in the year and persistent demand have lifted prices, so buyers face higher deposits and longer mortgage terms. For first-time buyers, this often means parental help, joint purchases with friends, or government deposit schemes as the only realistic paths into the market. If you plan to purchase, factor in larger loan repayments and the higher barrier to entry in many cities. Inflation and overall price trends, modest but uneven. Official inflation measures show consumer prices growing modestly in mid-2025, with the headline Consumer Price Index rising about 2.1% over the previous year. But the basket isn't uniform. Housing-related costs and some health and food categories drove the quarterly rises, while other areas like some transport costs eased. What that means for you is that small, steady price growth is happening across the economy. It's not runaway inflation, but everyday bills like rent, some utilities and selected food items have been more noticeable than others. Use the CPI trend as a broad guide, then check the specific costs that matter to your household. Groceries and everyday shopping. The weekly trolley story. Groceries have been a headline-grabbing part of the cost of living conversation. Prices for staples can vary by state. Some states have seen small dips while others experienced year-on-year rises. And supermarkets, discounting strategies, and supply chain quirks affect what you pay at the till. For people on a tight monthly budget, small increases on staples add up fast. For instance, targeted initiatives to subsidize essentials in remote communities show how uneven the grocery burden is across Australia. If you want to manage food costs, shop seasonal produce, compare supermarkets, and factor in occasional bulk buys. Utilities, energy and petrol, manageable but important. Utility bills, electricity, gas and water and petrol affect monthly living costs more than headline inflation numbers often show. In many places, energy bills have stabilized after previous spikes, but the timing of seasonal bills like winter electricity and local tariffs can create months where your bills spike. Petrol and transport costs vary by location and how much you commute. If you rely on a car, treat fuel and vehicle servicing as steady, recurring expenses. If you can use public transport, many cities still offer reasonable commuter passes that can trim weekly costs. Consider energy-efficient habits and comparing utility providers when possible to keep this part of your budget under control. Health, education and childcare, big-ticket items to plan for. Australia offers a robust public healthcare system that lowers out-of-pocket costs for many medical services, but private health insurance, dental care, and elective procedures can still be costly. Education costs vary. Public schooling is broadly affordable for residents, while private schools and university fees for international students are significant expense categories. Childcare is another major cost for working parents, and government subsidies reduce but do not eliminate the outlay in many cases. When planning a move with a family, map these costs early. Healthcare coverage, school zones and childcare availability affect both lifestyle and budgets. Lifestyle, eating out and entertainment, discretionary but tempting. Eating out, nightlife and entertainment are where budgets get stretched or saved, depending on habit. Sydney and Melbourne have plentiful dining options at every price point, but a weekly pattern of restaurant meals can rapidly increase living costs compared with cooking at home. Gym memberships, streaming services and weekend trips are discretionary but cumulative. Small monthly subscriptions add up. If your income is fixed, identifying discretionary expenses to trim will give you breathing room for essential cost increases like housing or groceries. So, is Australia expensive in 2025? The short answer, yes, compared to many places. Housing and rent are the standout costs. Groceries and selected services play a meaningful role, while official inflation is moderate and uneven across categories. Whether Australia feels affordable will depend on your income, housing choices and lifestyle. If you're moving here, plan for rent or mortgage to be your biggest monthly line item, shop smarter on groceries and utilities, and don't underestimate the value of researching local suburbs and service providers before you land. If you want, I can make a follow-up video breaking down costs city by city for Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide, with sample monthly budgets so you know exactly what to expect. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe and drop the city you want first in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.